Hi there, my name's Jill Anderson, and I'm one of the registered dietitians with the Jack and Jill Health Weight Loss Program. Today, I'm going to walk you through our session on nutrition on weight loss medications, where we will learn how balanced nutrition can help to accelerate and maintain your weight loss. So during this session, we'll go over some basics about what healthy eating is and what that might look like to you. We'll review what foods to enjoy more often and which foods to reduce while on weight loss medications. I'll talk about the importance of balanced nutrition and show you a practical way to balance your meals. We will discuss how to optimize the spacing of your meals and how to manage changes in appetite. Then we'll briefly review some supplements to consider when losing weight. And then we'll finish off by discussing how to set goals to set you up for success in the program. So before we get started, I just want to introduce our team of dietitians. On the left, we have Bianca. She works with clients who reside in BC and the Maritime provinces. And then we have myself. I support clients that live in Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. And lastly, we have Alana, who meets with our clients in Alberta. Right. So I'd like to start out by asking you to really give some thought about what healthy eating looks like to you. So, of course, you don't need a dietitian to tell you that healthy eating is an important lifestyle behavior that can improve your health, help you lose weight, and reduce your risk of chronic disease. But that being said, we find that many people in our weight loss program have been on various diets. We've tried it all throughout our life, and many of which have very different and conflicting and confusing methods for how one should eat to lose weight. Needless to say, there's loads of controversy that exists with respect to the ideal diet, especially for weight loss. So there's strong evidence to support that there actually is no one size fits all plan with respect to the ideal diet. There are, however, some common characteristics that underscore all healthy diets. These include diets rich in whole plant foods such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes, and with or without lean animal sources such as fish, poultry, seafood, and dairy. These diets also are low in refined starches and added sugars, ultra-processed foods, trans and saturated fats. So just want to pose this question just to get you thinking if maybe there are some food rules or principles that you've sort of carried on from previous diets. And I would love to encourage you to just sort of let go of those. And yeah, we'll support you in that 100%. Okay. Are there any foods that you need to cut from your diet to lose weight? So one more question to consider before we get into all the specifics and the details. Are there any specific foods or maybe nutrients that are specific to you that you feel like I've got to cut that out if I want to be successful with weight loss? Common responses, thanks to all the dieting history and diet culture, common things that we hear of would be I have to cut bread, I have to cut pasta, I got to go on a sugar detox, no more sugar. When beginning a weight loss journey, many people often default to what should I be cutting out instead of what could I be eating more of. Maybe give that some thought if you have, again, any like food rules or dieting rules around specific foods. Okay. The truth, the reality is that all foods can fit into a balanced and healthy diet. So there's no need to completely cut certain foods or restrict specific nutrients in a balanced eating pattern. So, as I kind of mentioned, all foods fit. So, restricting or depriving yourself of the foods you enjoy almost always leads to overindulging later on. We want to learn how to enjoy the high fat, high sugar, ultra processed foods in moderation. There are many strategies that can help with that, and we fully realize that it's easier said than done. Okay, so one of the best strategies to help you practice moderation is by emphasizing what foods you'd benefit from having more of. You know the ones. Think about what might be consistently missing or low in your diet. We want to help you find ways of enjoying eating more whole foods, fruits, veggies, lean proteins, high fiber starches. Again, you don't need me to tell you which ones. So we really want to focus on what we can add versus what we need to cut out. So that's kind of the message here. Um, so this image in the slide is of the newest update of the Canada's Food Guide, and our team of dietitians loves to call this the balanced plate method. It's really a practical way to achieve a good balance of nutrients within your meals. So you can see here half the plate is filled with veggies and fruit. The addition of more vegetables and fruit will come with many benefits, including fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory properties. These foods are also low in calorie and they can help to fill you up without eating a whole bunch of calorie dense foods. So 1/4 of the plate is whole food sources of proteins. So proteins, again, super important. You'll hear us talk about this time and again. But these foods, so examples are eggs, fish, beans, poultry, meat, and dairy. So eating enough protein is critical during weight loss to prevent muscle loss. Eating protein with each meal will help you feel full and satisfied to help ensure good blood sugar control. The last quarter consists of high fiber whole grain foods, such as whole grain breads, oats, quinoa, brown rice, and whole grain pastas. Choosing grains over refined starches will promote healthy digestion, good blood sugar control, and they can also help to lower cholesterol. So, all of these and balancing your plate in this way will really help you to build those sustainable eating habits that will help you to maintain your weight loss long term. Lastly, just to note, it's also important to ensure good hydration while on weight loss medications, and we want to choose water or other low sugar beverages most often. So now we've touched on which foods and nutrients we want to have more often. Now we want to just kind of touch on what we want to have in moderation or less often or in smaller amounts. So you could determine whether a food product is a little or a lot of a nutrient by looking at the label. So we recommend choosing food products that have less than 5% of saturated fat, trans fat, sodium, or sugar. So less than 5% per serving will tell us that it has a low amount of that nutrient, and that's what we want. So if the food product has more than 15%, it's considered high, and we'll want to choose smaller portions of that food item. An example of something, a common example of this would be cheese. So it'll be really challenging to find a cheese that has less than 5% saturated fat. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat cheese. It just means we want to enjoy that food less often and be more mindful of our portion size. Next is the sugar label. Okay, so this is an example of the many ways, oh my goodness. I have a visitor here. In many ways, sugar is added into our foods, and it's kind of sneaky. It doesn't always just read sugar in the ingredients. So whether it's sugar, honey, maple syrup, agave, or one of the others listed here, our body processes these sugars the same. So we want to check the nutrition facts and ideally select foods with less than 5% whenever possible. Healthy eating is more than what foods you eat. It's also about where, when, and why you eat. So we'll go over that now. So some of the benefits of balanced nutrition. So we understand what foods we want to have more of or less of, what we want to kind of have in moderation, and what we really want to emphasize. But now let's talk about why balanced nutrition is important. So a balance of carbs, fats, and protein, and vitamins and minerals, it's going to help you feel full, ensure you don't have any nutrient deficiencies. It will provide you with the energy, support healthy digestion, keep your focus sharp, stabilize your blood sugar, and help to prevent nutrient deficiencies and muscle loss as well. So what is balanced nutrition? We talk about this a lot, but what is it? So this picture here in this slide, it just kind of outlines what the ideal distribution of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are. So these are our main macronutrients. If you've been on other diets before, you've heard it all when it comes to macronutrients. But this is the recommendations from Health Canada about the ideal proportions for macronutrients. So it's called the acceptable macronutrient distribution ranges, and they're noted in the percentages under each slide. So macronutrient distribution will vary from day to day in normal healthy eating, and you don't have to adhere to rigid macro goals to restrict or cut certain nutrients to achieve your nutrition goals. So a practical way to balance your macros without counting or fussing or tracking is to use the balanced plate method that we reviewed earlier. So that distribution of carbs and proteins and the fruits and vegetables, that way of eating will help you to balance out your macronutrients within these ranges. Okay, optimal meal spacing. So now that we know the benefits of balanced macronutrients, let's talk about how to achieve optimal meal spacing. When you go too long without food, your body will increase and release the hunger hormones. So this leads to an increase in wanting and desire, more interest in seeking out and eating highly palatable, calorie-dense foods, which increases the likelihood of consumption beyond need. If you've ever gone to the grocery store on an empty stomach versus after having a nice satiating meal, you can tell the difference in the food choices that you're making on an empty stomach or when you've gone too long without food. So we really want to avoid that as often as possible. So this is one of the reasons why we recommend having those balanced meals a few times throughout the day. So an inconsistent meal pattern like the one on the left may also contribute to poor blood sugar control, increase of side effects of the medication. So sometimes an increase in nausea or reflux if you've gone too long between meals. It can result in losing your body's natural hunger and fullness cues. So we see this a lot in people that have maybe done intermittent fasting or just like skipped breakfast for many, many years. You're not naturally going to feel hungry in the morning then. If you haven't had that meal for a long time and that's been your pattern for a long time, you won't have that natural hunger cue in the morning. So you can lose touch of your hunger cues, and medications can also contribute to that as well. So going these long periods between meals also can increase episodes of binge eating. So again, just consuming beyond your need. It can cause you to feel low energy. So those dips in energy. So you've kind of gone a really long time and then you've had this big meal and then you kind of have that crash after. So that can be related to fluctuations in your blood sugar sometimes. So that can cause that low energy kind of that dip. Um, and lastly, can also lead to poor digestion and gut health. Having kind of larger meals once or twice, or kind of that unusual pattern in meals can be a little bit harder on your gut health. So restricting your intake during the day, it ultimately puts you at high risk for overeating and binging later on in the day. Some common gaps that we see with meal spacing, um, skipping breakfast, kind of mentioned that in the last slide. Suppressing appetite with coffee or caffeine. So again, you're just not really noticing those hunger cues. Well, I don't feel hungry, so I'm not going to have anything, but it will catch up with you a little bit later, most of the time. Low protein in breakfast or lunch, so having those carb only meals or even just like vegetable or fruit only meals, those, if they're low in protein, then that can kind of impact your energy levels and lead to kind of that over consuming later. So also not eating around physical activity. So if you're more active and you're not eating for a while before or after, and then also eating almost all of the day's nutrition at dinner and beyond. Those are some common examples that we see, but certainly not an extensive list. All right. So planning ahead and cooking more often is a very helpful strategy to support you in implementing a healthy, balanced diet. So more of like the how-to, especially if you're someone who knows what to do. Yes, I know I need to eat more vegetables and more protein. But if you're struggling to find the time, um, the meal planning and maybe doing some prep and cooking ahead can really be a helpful strategy to set you up for success. So, having a plan for the week will increase your success with healthy eating and prevent you from relying on takeout or making those last minute decisions about food. If you want to learn more about meal planning, I would recommend attending one of our live meal planning group sessions. Some strategies to manage changes in appetite. So, on weight loss medications, of course, there are some changes in appetite, which is partially why the medications are a very helpful tool in weight loss. But sometimes we still need to make sure we're nourishing and fueling. So, one strategy, if you're filling up really quickly on a small amount of food, is again fueling yourself with small, frequent meals throughout the day. So don't wait too long again to have something, because if you're not able to get a lot of nutrition in at that meal time, we want to kind of space it out a little bit better. So avoid skipping or going longer than 4 to 6 hours without eating. If you feel less hungry at mealtime, have a small portion. So don't try to force in larger portions than you're comfortable with. That's where, again, we want to spread it out a little bit. Choose nutrient dense whole foods, just like the plate method, veggies, fruits, proteins, and whole grains. Reduce the more indulgent, high fat, high sugar foods and drinks. So, those foods, not only do they not provide really any nutrition, they're going to fill you up and take away from an opportunity to fuel yourself with healthy foods. So these foods are not off limits, like we talked about, but we do want to practice moderation. And lastly, staying hydrated. So drinking 2 to 3 liters of water throughout the day. Some supplements to consider. So during weight loss and when your appetite is reduced, supplements can help to fill the gaps of nutrients missing in your diet and prevent deficiencies. So here's a list of some of the supplements that we routinely recommend. We do have curated vitamin packs available to order on our website, but we do recommend speaking with your healthcare team prior to starting new supplements or natural health products, as some of these may have negative interactions with your medication, and some of them can have some undesirable side effects as well. Right. Goal setting. So, in order to promote effective behavior change, which is the ultimate goal, we first need to identify areas that are going well and where there may be room for some improvement. Goal setting is a tool that can help guide this process. So, our team recommends following smarter goal setting strategy outlined in this slide to help you set goals to boost your progress. So, really hone in on specific areas that you want to focus on. So, a few examples here of some smarter goals around healthy eating would be I will include a protein source with my morning meal 3 days per week. So, it's really specific. We may even want to make it more specific by um, just specifying what type of protein to add. Another example, I will drink 1 liter throughout my workday. So maybe filling up a 1 liter bottle, bringing it with you, keeping an eye on it, making sure you're getting that in. Uh, Another example, I will begin increasing vegetables in my diet by prepping containers of veggies and dip to bring to work 3 days per week. It's another really specific goal about how someone might be able to start increasing their vegetable intake. Short-term goals lead to great successes. So don't forget, it's important to celebrate the achievement of all of your goals. Also, expect that you may have setbacks, and you're probably likely to come across setbacks throughout your journey. Some goals will be harder to achieve than others. So the key is to get back to it and try again. You may have to adjust the timeline, but of course, it will still be worth it. Okay, to sum it all up, weight loss medications are more effective in combination with balanced nutrition. So avoid all or nothing thinking and perfectionism. A lot of our clients, we see this with really struggling with being either 100% in, trying to make all of the changes. And if that doesn't go well, then throw in the towel and, sort of go back to old habits. But we have to try to get past that all or nothing thinking. So no foods are bad or off limits. Reduce consumption of sugar, salt, and trans saturated fats. So those are the ones we want to look for on the label, choosing those processed foods less often in moderation. And then, of course, filling up on high fiber and high protein foods and following that plate method will help you to do this. Establish a routine that helps form healthy eating habits. So having a routine around your meals can be a really helpful tool. Fuel your body at regular intervals, making sure you're not skipping meals or going too long. Space out your protein intake to minimize hunger and maintain muscle mass, which is super important. So we want to make sure we're getting adequate protein every day, and ideally with every single meal. Stay hydrated with low sugar beverages, preferably water, and then considering supplements, as they can reduce the risk of nutrient deficiencies while losing weight. And then lastly, take small steps towards improvement. Set specific behavior-based goals, not weight targets. So I'd like to just wrap up with a quote from a Canadian physician who has done great research in the area of obesity medicine and weight management. So strive for your best diet, the healthiest diet possible that you truly enjoy and can maintain long term. And if you have any questions about this presentation or about nutrition, or if you want to get set up for an appointment with one of our dietitians, please feel free to send us an email. Um, Note down the provinces beside our names there, and just make sure you note down the dietitian that covers your province. Right. Thanks for coming.